Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity of being here talking about this significant bill that is going to increase and improve our the status quo. And to begin our portion of this debate, I'd like to actually yield the 5 minutes to the gentleman from Arkansas who is the chief sponsor of this particular bill, who has a personal background actually having earned a degree in forestry, even from the state of Arkansas. The gentleman, Mr. Westerman, who is the sponsor of the bill.
The gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise today in support of H.R. 2647, the Resilient Federal Forest Act. This bipartisan legislation will give the Forest Service tools it needs to better manage our national forest. As a professional forester, I see that our forests are in decline and lack resiliency. President Teddy Roosevelt, who worked alongside a fellow Yale forester, Gifford Pinchot, to create the U.S. Forest Service, are the two I would credit as the fathers of our national forest. Roosevelt said, "The nation behaves well if it treats the natural resources as assets which it must turn over to the next generation, increased and not impaired in value." We have problems with our current forest policy that is leaving one of our most treasured natural resources less resilient, decreased, and impaired in value. It is our forests that suffer. Without forests that are healthy, we have poor water quality, poor air quality, less wildlife habitat, less biodiversity. My bill aims to fix these problems, and it aims to fix them through proactive and sound management. First, our forests are living and dynamic, but we have a problem of delayed decision-making, or even worse, no decision-making at all. This bill incentivizes collaboration and speeds up the implementation of collaborative projects while safeguarding strong and timely environmental reviews. We have a problem of not salvaging timber destroyed in catastrophic events, which makes the forest more dangerous, increases future wildfire problems, and makes it difficult for reforestation. This bill sets up requirements for salvage and reforestation. The Forest Service would have to implement greater reforestation in response to catastrophic events. Typically, less than 3% of an area is reforested after a catastrophic event. This is unacceptable. My bill requires 75% reforestation within 5 years. We have a problem in our rural communities that not only depend on forests for their sustenance, but also provide emergency services, education, and support for the forest and residents who live near the forest. As our forests are decreased and impaired in value, our forest communities immediately suffer and suffer even more in the future. My bill gives counties flexibility in spending secure rural schools funding and puts 25% of stewardship contracts into the county treasurer for schools and other public services. There are other policy problems this legislation solves, but none are more important than problems caused by having to spend too much of our Forest Service budget for reactive fire suppression rather than on proactive, sound management and fire prevention. This bill ends the destructive practice of fire borrowing in a physically responsible manner. It creates a sub-account under the Stafford Act specifically for fighting wildfire. I would like to thank Chairman Bishop, Conaway, and Schuster for their assistance with this critical bipartisan bill. Our national forests desperately need scientific management to become resilient again. In the words of Roosevelt, I call on us to behave well, to treat our forest resources as assets that we will turn over to the next generation, increased and not impaired in value. I look forward to advancing this bill today and call on the Senate to act promptly to ease the burdens of the summer fire season. And I yield back the balance of my time.